Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. You're all very, very welcome to a post match reaction of Khanage. And Khanage by name, Khanage by nature. Today, of course, we've got the amazingly prepared ticker going across the bottom that gives you most of the information that you needed. Shout out to Omar, who done that in about 30 seconds. Liverpool 5, RB Leipzig 0, pre-season friendly out in Germany, wasn't it? It was in Germany, Steve, wasn't it? Before I say something wrong to start off with, it was
Yes,
Germany.
it was, mate. Yeah.
Liverpool flew out to Germany and continued their pre-season training, stroke, monetized, televised coverage of their extended training sessions, and demolished the team that finished fourth in the Bundesliga last year. We'll get into that and all the talking points around it. Thank you very much for tuning in, people. There's 100 of you in here already. Didn't expect that. I thought you guys would be watching Love Island, but you obviously want to speak about Liverpool today. Darwin did take that personally, Pixelated Pigeon. We're going to get into that. Salam to you as well, Samir. I don't know if we're going to give too much chat to the compilation makers and whatnot. We'll see. If Steve feels like it, he can. I'm not sure if I feel like it. Yeah, Captain Sal, no better way to silence the haters with a hat trick and a pen. I'm not sure there's too many haters. I think there's more bitters and cowards than haters. But we'll get into it. Elias, forgive us if we're late. I think we were only a couple of minutes late today. But yeah, welcome, people, everyone. Steve, how we doing? How are you? How's your day been?
Yeah, good. Busy, but good. And obviously topped off with a good win abroad. Like you say, good preparation for the season, a training game. That's all it is, just a training match. But irrespective of that, mate, I think the boys did well. One in particular, and it's kind of like, "Good evening, Mr. Nunez. We've been expecting you," to quote sort of a James Bond film. There, we've been expecting
Yeah,
this coming, mate, because he's quality, mate, and it was only a matter of time. But we'll get into that. But all told, mate, a very, very good exercise abroad in Germany tonight. A bit sharper, a bit better again.
yeah. Shout out to Mick who
Evening,
joined
Mick.
me, joined me in the watch along, and he was the turning point of our watch along as well because well, we're gonna get before we get into the game, because the first half was a bit of a drag, and lo and behold, surprise, I had Omar. So obviously, when you got Omar with you doing a watch along, nothing exciting happening, nothing. Mick comes along, and then everything kicks off. 4 goals from Nunez. Everything's lovely and rosy, but we'll get into that. Just, I guess we want to give a shout out to an ex-legend of ours. Even pains us to say ex, but it is what it is. Let's move on. But it's pretty much still raw. It's still new, relevant. Sorry, I should say. Sadio Mane won African Player of the Year. So congratulations to Sadio Mane, right?
100% congratulations to Sadio. Completely agree. I think it's the worst kept secret in football in recent weeks that he was going to win that. His escapades for Senegal and Liverpool last season made that a shoe-in, to be fair. So, yeah, well done, Sadio. Thoroughly deserved. Um, we need to look forward now, don't we? We've said thank you and well done and all that good stuff, mate. But the man scoring penalties for Bayern last night, so we need to think about what we're doing, and there's a time to reminisce, isn't there? There's a time to
Absolutely,
reminisce.
absolutely. Yeah, look, I'd like to think once the season started now and we get into the motion of supporting the rest of the amazing squad and team and Reds we've got, I guess this is probably the final reminiscing, final congratulations, whatever we need to do. And then now, once the season kicks off in just under 2 weeks, we totally focus on the amazing set of players and coaches we've got at Liverpool. Sam sends in a very early super chat. He says, Grizz, you got an FPL league? I have indeed, mate. I've tweeted I tell you what, someone in the lovely chat may have the code to my Premier League. If you could post it, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, I'll post it at some point, either today or I'll put it on my Twitter or my socials. I've nearly got 1,000 teams. My God, you lot are FPL mad. I think I'm close to 1,000 teams in my league. So only enter if you're hard enough. That's what I'm going to say, Sam. Only if you think you're hard enough. And guess what the league's called? It's called the Big Dogs. So if you're a big dog, get in there, son. None of your business says, evening, lads. It was nice to see a few of the players pick up some good performances. Yeah, it was. We'll get into that. Hit the like, people, as he says. Yeah, good for Sadio. Well deserved, but on we go. Steve, as always, we start off with the lineup. We kind of predicted that we're going to go sort of, when I say strong, like in terms of we're going to start seeing a kind of team that we're likely to pick for the first game. How close do you think we are to the opening lineup against Fulham, in your opinion?
I think there's possibly two in there that come out for me, and that's the goalkeeper. Obviously, it depends on the abdominal strain that Ali's got and where we are with that, and whether it was just dropped him tonight. And I can see Harvey starting in place of Keita. If I'm being honest with you, he came on today and had a hand in a number of the goals. That would have done his chances no harm at all. Whilst I thought Keita was okay and didn't do anything wrong, he didn't really catch my eye. Whereas every game Elliott's played this pre-season, he has caught my eye. So I look at Elliott and I think it's no surprise that he's assisted goals in the last couple of games and he's sharp and he looks on it and he looks, the one for I think it was the where he stretched and played it in off the post was with his wrong foot as well. So he's making moves to get into the team. He's playing well. Whilst we know what Keita does, if I'm watching that game today and I need to talk about the players, you're going to need to remind me that Keita played. Didn't really, for me, set the world on fire.
So I'm gonna add to the Keita debate, but I'm gonna add other ingredients. So I was watching the game, and obviously, people, let us know what you think in the chat, because it's all about having a chat. That's what we're doing. We're not here to preach to you guys. We're not here to tell you how you should have viewed the game or seen the game. But so the game starts off pretty well, Steve. As you said, the lineup, I thought, yeah, it looks good. It looks strong. I would have thought at the time that's probably the lineup, barring Alisson, in my opinion. The other contentious one would have been Henderson for Keita. I personally thought, of course, Elliott's done very well, but Steve, the first 10 minutes we looked lively, of course, and what minute do we get the goal? We get the goal quite early on as well.
Yeah, I'll check that now. Someone in the chat, tell us when it was, please.
Yeah, we get the goal earlier on as well. But I just thought, Steve, I was a bit disappointed with that first half. Here we are. I think. Where are we? I have lost it completely. Give me 2 seconds. Why am I trying to use technology?
8th minute it was.
There you go. So 8th minute, we get the goal that we're looking for. And you like to think to yourself, that's the kind of goal, that's the kind of sort of event that usually calms us down, and we totally strangle teams from that point onwards, even though taking into consideration it's a friendly. We get the goal, lovely set up by Bobby. It's the simple things that he makes look even more simpler and easier. Mm-hmm. It's the passes, it's the layoffs that he does that doesn't require the player receiving the ball or the pass or the through ball to do much. It kind of makes your mind up for you. That's what Bobby does when he's at his best. And for me, Salah was pretty much back to his best in that opening 15, 20 minutes.
Yep.
He really looked lively, didn't he? Along with Bobby Firmino.
Yeah. Good to see Bobby playing like that, because there's been conversations in the last few weeks about his future and was there a potential move on the cards and what's the contractual situation. Good to see tonight none of that's affected him. He's gone out there and played the Bobby Firmino that we know, linking play, being clever with his passes, as you say, the assist for Mo, and all he's done there is just push it across Mo's body and said, "Go on, then use your left foot," and he has, and he's notched. And Salah does look sharp. I am in agreement with you. You started that little bit there by saying you were a bit underwhelmed by the first half.
Well, I was going to get into the specifics, but go on. Yeah, I was going to get into.
I think when we score the goal, we then play within ourselves for a little bit. And I think there is still. I think there's still a mindset that how hard do we push this in pre-season, because I don't want to pick up an injury. But it didn't ever look like we were going to blow them away. From the when the goal went in, I thought, here we go, we're on song tonight. We'll step up the pressure, we'll press high, we'll win the ball back high, we'll create lots of chances, and we just went through a slightly passive spell for me. I don't know what you think.
I pretty much agree. As I said, I thought the early goal would set us up nicely. Lots of pressing. Mo again gets another chance, doesn't he, on his right foot this time, very similar to the one he scored against Man City. Well, obviously the Man City goal was magnificent. He takes on 3 players, but it was more similar to the Champions League chance, doesn't it? Isn't it, in the final, where the keeper manages to palm it and actually goes over the head, over the bar. This time, Mo doesn't strike it cleanly, and it's one of those goals where the only way you score from that situation if it goes through the keeper's legs.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go through the keeper's legs, you're not going to score. Pretty disappointed with himself, but it kind of looked good. Really looked strong, really looked powerful, really looked settled. I agree with you. Bobby started off really well as well. Working away from the front backwards, I thought Diaz, that's 2 games in a row, or I should say 2 halves only. Bear in mind, it's only 2 halves. Just warming up. Do you think getting back into the groove of things?
A little bit. We are seeing again, and it's typical Liverpool, that we're building mostly down the right, and we always have. We've always had that sort of. That's the fundamental part of our tactics, is to get Trent on the ball, get Mo on the ball, and the guys on the left hand side benefit from that. I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. We're still changing the team a lot. We're still, changing the bodies that people are playing with. He's not played with Bobby too much. He's still learning what Bobby's all about, really, because obviously Bobby had availability issues due to injury in the second half of last season. So I think down the right hand side we're much stronger, and I think as a result of that we're slightly neglecting the left hand side. And Diaz didn't do anything wrong today. I don't think you could say, well, why did he do that? But you could say he wasn't really in the game. I think that would be fair to say that he wasn't in the game. So, and that's more tactical than poor performance on his part. So I'd be reluctant to look too closely at that and to judge that. I would. It is what it is type of scenario. We played down the right hand side, and we will continue to do that whilst Trent's in the team, and that's the risk. That's the playmaker, isn't it? He's our creative guy. He's the guy that takes all the risks. So it makes sense for the team to get him on the ball. Diaz will be an absolute revelation of that, I'm sure. I'm not going to get too concerned about, an hour ago, Grizz, or a couple of hours ago, there were question marks, rightly or wrongly, about Darwin Nunez. Football can change in one game. And if we have a good game against Salzburg and Diaz contributes to that, any thoughts, concerns, if there are any, about tonight's game, and I get why you asked the question, that they will evaporate as quickly as the Nunez ones have tonight.
Yeah, the lads at This Is Anfield doing their match report pretty much agreed with what we've just said. He said the Colombian arguably hasn't had the most memorable preseason so far, barring a lively opening against Man United. Nothing to worry about, of course, but it would be nice to see him more involved in Liverpool's all-round play. Then they talk about an incident on the 31st minute, and we often get this another accusation thrown at Trent Alexander-Arnold in terms of his covering or his recovery pace or how he doesn't sense danger. Up against Nkunku, who's no slouch and is probably one of the outstanding players of the Bundesliga. Don't know if you remember the incident. Trent just strips him dead in a straight foot race and kind of just you can see the confidence or the hope in Nkunku just evaporate. He must have thought, is this Virgil? Is this Ibu? No, this is Trent. Our defenders. I mean, I know I said we're going to start from the back to the front to the back. We've spoken about the front lads. Okay, with Bobby and Mo, Diaz could have done better. I guess we leave the middle for because probably going to be interesting chat. We go to the back, lads at the back. I thought Trent was outstanding, Steve.
Yeah, that instant you're talking about, he reads and anticipates what's going to happen really quickly. So he's on the move before the pass is completed. So yes, he shows a good turn of pace. One thing I noticed, he's been in the gym again. He looks bigger again, more physical specimen, and he need that because he's going to be more competitive going forward in his career. Tonight he was good. That was a really good read of the game. Really good to make the run early to shut that down. And he gets and like you say, he just knocked the stuffing out of Nkunku. He just thought, what's the point in not getting that? And that's good to see because that's what you want. I can recall a few years ago when we were playing Man City, and I think might have been Nathaniel Klein absolutely thundered into Sterling, and Jordan Henderson's there going, good boy, and that's the type of thing that we need to see a little bit more from Trent, and he's starting to do that now. Back end of last season, Champions League final, dealt with a couple of one-on-one situations really well, and he's done it again tonight. So this myth that he can't defend is exactly that. It's just a myth. It doesn't have any validity at all. So it was good. It was good, mate. It's good to see him looking like that too.
It is just a myth. It's an absolute myth, and amongst many other myths that we're probably going to get into and slowly. One myth that I don't think is a myth, or one myth that opposition fans think is a myth. No, that doesn't make sense either. One fact I say that opposition fans suggest is a myth when Liverpool fans speak on it is Khanage and Virgil van Dijk is the best partnership, centre-back partnership in the whole of the world. These two are absolute brilliant together. Today we saw glimpses of Virgil van Dijk, who sometimes can start off slowly in pre-season. It's absolutely natural. Big guy, big frame, not getting younger, getting older naturally. Unfortunately, that's the way life works. But once he gets going, you feel I feel unbeatable. I said it to Omar very nice. I said it very early. He goes, oh, my prediction of 3-1 looks good here. I said, Leipzig won't have a sniff. I know they had one chance because of Khanage not knowing where his bearings were and the ball fell to the guy's feet where Alisson makes a save. But I thought Virgil oozed class again. And I tell you what, Steve, with Mo in this form, and the amount of runs, I know we spoke about Diaz not getting involved in the play, but the amount of runs he made behind the back four, Virgil van Dijk could possibly have quite a few assists to his name because his passing was sensational again from the back.
Yeah, do you know, we're guilty of overlooking Virgil because he's so good. I think we're guilty of becoming, we expect it. We expect it to happen every single game, and because it does, we talk about other players. Because it's become the norm for him to be as good as he is, and that laser-guided long balls inside to out and the ones down the left-hand side are really good quick transition to get around the back of people, and only when he's not in the team do you realise just how much we miss that. And you're quite right, he's 31 now, and as you say, not necessarily a quick starter in pre-season, but he looks good to me. He's anticipating things. His recovery speed's really good. He's winning tackles. I know when he came back from injury, we played against the team and Stevan Jetovic gave him a nightmare in the game. That's not what we're seeing this pre-season. He's already almost up to full speed in terms of being ready for games and ready for the challenges that the opposition bring. And I just think we're guilty of looking at him thinking, it's Virgil, it's fine. Virgil's a 9.5 out of 10 every single week. So what we'll do is we'll stop talking about Virgil and we'll talk about Khanage. But we can't sleep on Virgil. I maintain that's the best central defender I've ever seen. And I don't buy into this longevity bollocks. At the end of the day, if you're good enough, you're good enough. And I can't see a weakness in his game. Whereas you could talk to me about any other centre-back in English Premier League history and I can find a weakness in their game. I can't in his. He's got it all. But the biggest thing above all that he's got is football IQ. He doesn't need to stretch his legs all the time. He doesn't need to play at 110 miles an hour. He reads what's going on so well. He's a colossus, and I totally agree with your assumption that him and Khanate are the best centre-back partnership in the world. They really are. And the second best defensive partnership in the world is Matip and Van Dijk.
Matip and Van Dijk.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People are reminding me that I said Alisson, Adrian, of course. People also know my views on Adrian in the past. He's not my favourite player, but hey, we all have some that aren't in every squad that we support and team. But when they wear the red, you support them. So big up, Adrian. Thanks very much for helping Khanate out and keeping that clean sheet. Someone said earlier, first name on the team sheet, Virgil van Dijk. I think it's pretty much unanimous, right? Some may argue about Fabinho. Some may say Salah. For me, it's Virgil van Dijk, first name on the team sheet, and then you build the rest of the team around there. What's your thoughts on that, very quickly?
Yeah, it's a lot closer between him and Alisson than anybody else, I think. I think Alisson is almost as crucial as Virgil is, but because of what Virgil gives you in a sense of this aura, this presence he's got on the pitch, people are scared to even engage him in a foot race. Centre forwards give up. It must be amazing to play with somebody that you just watch where allegedly world-class centre forwards go, nah, I can't be bothered, it's Virgil, I'm not going to get this.
How many times have we seen that, Steve? How many times have we seen attackers just give up? The likes of Lautaro Martinez, Haaland, when he played for so many players just to give up. Benzema, obviously not in the Champions League final, but I know he didn't score, but sort of in terms of his general play, he was like not engaging in battles. Mbappe, Neymar, we've seen all these guys when they're around these kind of centre-backs, they know what they can fight and work with, and they know what they can't. They just, they try other avenues or pick on other players. You stay away from Virgil as much as you can.
And that's why teams build down our right-hand side, their left-hand, our right-hand side, because he's not there. But Khanate is coming. Khanate is going to be a special player on the right-hand side. So it'll then be a case of, well, we don't bother with Virgil because he's too good. Hang on a minute, this Khanate kid's a bit special as well. And when he's not there, Matip's pretty special too. And where's Trent got that recovery speed from? And he's reading the game a lot better. And, you look at it and you think, a friend of mine said recently that our back four and back five, including the goalkeeper, is by some distance the best back five we've ever had. I'd go and find it hard to argue with that.
I wouldn't argue with that. Honestly, I wouldn't argue with that. People picked up on your comment about the first and second best partnership, and then they went with third is Gomez and VVD.
I could, good shout, Si. I can live with that, mate.
and then they say fourth is anyone with VVD. Do you know what I mean? So bring back.
Nat Phillips and VVD, yeah.
Exactly. There was something that I wanted to, a couple of super chats I wanted to get out of the way. Pimp in Distress, where are the bitter rivals now, Grizz? Big up, G. They're going to stay around. They're going to lurk around. That's what happens when you've got nothing else to talk about yourself. What you do is you look for flaws in anyone else. Remember that. When you've got nothing to share about in your life, no happiness, it's all doom and gloom. What you do is you try to look for the smallest of issues and problems in other people's lives and try to make it bigger than it is. Don't worry about it. Big up yourselves, people. There's 400 of you in here. Hit a like.
Wow.
That's all we ask for.
Well done, guys. That's impressive.
That is indeed. We love you loads. We respect you for joining us on a Thursday night preseason friendly, really. But it just shows you the levels that this team, the passion it brings out, and how we build up a community. And we want to chat about the Reds. It's time to get excited again. We've had a couple of weeks off, scratching our heads and other parts of our body. But we're so close. We're so close to starting this long journey again. And it could be another miraculous journey, lads. It could be another miraculous journey. Yeah, look, Henry Jackson, good mate of mine, asked the question that we asked, didn't we, Steve? Khanate or Matip? What do we do? What do we do? I think it's Khanate, the way the partnerships are going pre-season. But as you said, absolutely no qualms if it's Matip as well, right? Just literally is it?
Yeah, 100%. I think the recovery speed of Khanate is a big advantage because we play with such a high back line. he's he was the quickest in the club. I don't know if Diaz is quicker than him or Darwin Nunez is quicker than him. He might now find himself in the space of 6 months being the third fastest in the club, which is great for us. He won't be bothered by that. He's got a long, prestigious career at Liverpool in front of him. He's the real deal, mate. He really is. He's built like a tank. He's ridiculously quick. His reading of the game is getting better. He got a little bit of a mix-up today when, as you quite rightly pointed out, he stuck
It was
a foot
very
out.
similar. I tell you what, Steve, it was very similar to the goal Darwin Nunez scored against us
Correct.
at Benfica, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's so big sometimes it seems he can't sort his feet out. But he sort of put a leg out to block the cross and it fell to the guy, and Adrian did well. Adrian is a good shot stopper. What you don't want to be doing with Adrian is asking him to show you distribution skills because he doesn't have them. So I don't think we can question Adrian as a shot stopper. He's proved many, many times that he's good at that. But the distribution side of it is a major concern. It's worse than Simon Mignolet, and that's saying something. But yeah, I think that's a really good point made by Henry. I think Khanage probably now is in the box seat in terms of partnering Van Dijk. And do you know what? If Matip plays as many games as Khanage played last season, or they switch the roles around where Khanage plays the most and Matip comes in for a few games here and there, I think that suits everybody.
Beautiful. It's perfect. It's the perfect scenario, Steve. You just can't go wrong. It's always good to be in that kind of position. Look, Klopp was furious with Diaz. But as I said, I thought after that initial first 10, 15 minutes, you think that we backed off slightly. I think there's a combination. I think Leipzig got back into them. Let's not forget they've got a very good team. They've got a very good set of players there. And we our passing was just not quick enough. I don't think our control, and I'm going to come to why I thought, or one of the reasons I'm going to suggest our control.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Robertson was the poorest out of our back four, especially when it comes to sort of getting shots on target with Robertson. He always finds himself at least once in a game where we think Robbo hit the target, and I think he needs to work on that, Steve, because of the way we demand our fullbacks to be, because he's the more overlapping one opposed to Trent.
Yeah.
I think there was another chance where he had what looked like a simple cut back to Bobby. It would have been a tap-in, and Bobby was very frustrated. The only thing down from our back four was the Robertson final pass, final shot, final delivery. Any thoughts on that?
That's a common thing. Simicast is better than him in the final third. I think his delivery is better.
I'd say so.
Better. He's not defensively as strong as Robbo.
Yeah.
I think there's not much in it between the two, but Klopp trusts and loves Robbo, so we're not going to see that change, and I'm okay with that. Robbo will improve as we get closer to the season. We talk about Trent's assists. Robbo's only about 2 or 3 behind him. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. It's nice to have the other option of having Simicast who can come on and play. I agree with you. He probably should stay behind and do some shooting practice, because there are times when he scuffs one and it goes across the front of the goal and almost goes out for a throw in. He's not great in the final third when under pressure. I think his last goal was a header against Everton, I believe. Which is
what a great moment it was, but it was a long time ago. And as I said, the amount of times we find him in a game or situation where we find ourselves clenching our fists or gritting our teeth, and he's better than that.
Yeah, FA Cup final, he hit the post from like half a yard. Remember, an extra time. He needs to do a bit more in the final third. He needs to contribute a few more goals, because you're right, he gets himself into those positions and there's opportunities for him to do that. It would be harsh to sort of hang him out to dry for that. Absolutely not going to do that. But Simicast is a genuine threat in the final third with regards to that for him. So a little bit of work to do there. He could quite easily score between 5 and 10 goals a season if he was able to deal with that.
What I've said in the past, and when I first said it, there was a lot of raised eyebrows because I said it very early on in Simicast's tenure at Liverpool, and I said what differentiates for me, gives him the advantage, is Tsimikas' right foot is far stronger than Robertson's right foot. Tsimikas can actually dribble with, old school with 2 feet type dribbling.
Yeah.
In some situations where he can dribble his way out of trouble. His engine will come. Some people are talking about his engine and it's not as good as Robertson. Well, not many people in world football will be as fit as energetic as Robertson. He's an absolute machine when it comes to that. But Tsimikas will be there. And I think Tsimikas, again, it's a brilliant scenario like we got in the centre of defence, Steve, where Tsimikas will keep Robertson on his toes. And Robertson will be able to have a rest when it's needed, because one of the things that we often talk about is how tired Robertson looks. He shouldn't look tired because of the fact that Tsimikas is ready to step in when needed, right?
Agreed. If we play 60 games next season, don't be surprised to see it like 35-25 in favour of Robertson, because what Tsimikas did last season was earn a bit more trust and a bit more belief from the squad and from the manager. And I think, that's potentially what we see with that. And I'm okay with that because Tsimikas has never let us down. And he would be left back in pretty much every team in the Premier League if he wasn't at our football club. And I like the fact that he's in the club knowing what Jurgen Klopp thinks about Andy Robertson, yet he's still happy to be at the club. He still thinks he can upset Robertson and take his shirt off him, much like this comment here. I think Tsimikas believes he's in with a shout of being number 1 left back.
Oh, wow.
And I genuinely do think he thinks that, and I like that about him. That's cool. He hasn't settled for a bit part role in the squad, and be interesting to see how things turn out with Calvin Ramsey as well, because we've actually brought a guy in and he knows his role in the squad. Nico Williams wanted more game time. Calvin Ramsey has accepted he's not getting that. But at some point in the future, if he progresses in the way that we would want him to, then that will happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 35-25 if we play 60 games next season.
Jamie sends in a super chat. Big up yourself, Jamie. Hope you're doing well, my friend. He says 5 subs now in the Premier League will keep fullbacks and centre backs so fresh and fit. Exactly what we were just talking about. These extra 2 subs allow us to stay healthy and raise our level everywhere in squad. And that's why it was vital that we keep the likes of Tsimikas and add to the likes of sort of, your Gomez's, your Milners, and now Calvin Ramsey once he's up and going, because fullbacks are key in a Klopp system. The only slight negative about that first half, or the main negative for me, and I'm going to say the midfield. It's been talked about. It's pre-season. I get it. It's their third half only of the pre-season, Steve. But on the back of last season, in terms of the criticism levied at our midfield, especially in some of the cup finals and some league games, was the energy, creativity, and speed of recovery. I guess those are 3. Maybe let me know if if you think I'm being overcritical. Let me know if you agree. Let us know in the chat, and we'll try to give our opinions on it, people. I was slightly disappointed, Steve, because these guys, in my opinion, I know you disagreed, but in my opinion, I thought these guys are the owners of the shirts as before kickoff, because they've been picked together. They, the only contentious one, as I said, was Jordan Henderson. But Thiago, Fabinho, Naby Keita, I'm really looking for them to be, how shall I put it? They're the most experienced. They're the most talented. There's a lot of pressure on them. There's a lot of outside noises about our midfield. How we need to bring in legs. Elliott's knocking on the door. Can Carvalho play there? Jones is pushing. Jordan Henderson might be 31, but still. And I want to touch on Jordan Henderson as well before we get into the second half. You probably want to get onto that, and I did have that in mind. I just want you to tell me about those 3 as a team, as a midfield. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them perform on a regular basis at a high level. I know people have been baying for them to be R3 in midfield. I'm not sure if Thiago and Naby Keita I think they're too similar. That's one of my biggest gripes. I don't know what you think on that.
They are the most experienced. They are the ones with the miles on the clock and the stories to tell about their careers. But they're also the safest option in terms of they're not dynamic, not really particularly dynamic. There was a phase in the second half where Carvalho stretched his legs and went past a couple of people. Also in the second half, Harvey Elliott got involved and created goals. Those guys are looking forward, really looking forward when they get on the ball. So maybe my thinking is, and I know there's people saying that's probably the team we'll go to Fulham with. I think what he looked at was what we know we tried and tested. Thiago, Fabinho,
Yeah.
and Keita, and it could have been Henderson. You still would have had the same dynamic. And then in the second half,
It's all right. I think you're still on mute. It's not in properly, probably. Is it in properly? No.
there you go. That's better.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, touched something on my headset. Yeah. So in the second half, he put the two more expansive young lads out there who want to go and play football, who want to go engage people. And what he had a look at was a safe option and a more expansive option. That's the way I see it. And we got the goals when we went with the more expansive option. So I think there's a lot to be said. And the other question is, do we need to go on the first day of the season away to Fulham with a safe midfield? Do we think Fulham have got enough?
This is the big chat.
Chelsea.
This is
we're playing
this
Chelsea.
is gonna,
Yes, we'd do it.
This is the big chat that's going to be, Steve. This is the conversation that fans up and down the country, Liverpool fans, I should say, and even some non-Liverpool fans, as we find, because we're the biggest team in the world, we get talked upon. It's going to be the biggest debate. Horses for courses, the midfield setup, similarities, pace of our midfield, depth of our midfield. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Jurgen Klopp to get this selection right because of the fact that he's kind of said it very openly. In fact, he said it very openly that he's very happy with the resources and the options he has in midfield. It's all about having those 7, 8 options that he's got and making sure the combination is right in every time. Now, as I said, on paper, this is the strongest, most experienced, most skillful, most talented, etc., etc. People remind me if I'm wrong, because obviously I can't remember everything. I don't remember these guys having 3-4 performances where I've thought, wow, in a row. That's just my opinion. Am I wrong? Let me know. Am I being too critical? Let me know. I just think they really need to, and I'm not saying I doubt them. I'm saying at the moment, I want them to improve their overall game by a minimum of 15% minimum.
So I think they're very good at what they do. I think, if, like I said at the end of my last piece, if you go and play Manchester City or you go and play Chelsea, for instance, or you go to Europe and you play Real Madrid or somebody like that, you go with what you trust, what you know is going to give you a certain level of performance where there's very little risk. Naby Keita's a risk in Europe, and we've seen him be taken off in the first half because he didn't get the game plan, and it cost us quite heavily. In games such as Fulham, in games at home against teams we should be expected to put to bed, I think you see a more dynamic setup. This horses for courses thing, Grizz, is huge. It's absolutely huge. It's going to be because of the bodies we've got available, because of the numbers of players in the squad, because of the possible permutations in defence, midfield, and the forward line. Jurgen Klopp likes to change his teams. We know this. This is probably going to be even more wild than it's ever been because of the options he's got available to him. Against the Chelsea team, you could put in the resilient type, the doubtful type, that give nothing away, and then after an hour, you could bring on Carvalho and Elliott and say, right, okay, we've had a war of attrition in the middle of the park for an hour. Kante, Kovacic, and Jorginho are done in. Go and get at them, but we haven't had that before. And in the cup finals, when we were looking for inspiration, we were looking for something different, something a little bit more dynamic. We came up short. The three guys that are kind of the custodians of the shirts as we speak, your Fabinho's, your Hendersons, and your Thiagos, are amazing footballers and and are huge to the football club. And you're right, are the ones that are revered and considered to be the owners of the shirts, and rightly so. These young kids now have been brought in, and he's kind of saying to them, "Go and show me. Go and show me what my future looks like. Go and show me what Liverpool football." Imagine in a world where we play a back four, one person sitting, and then we have the three across the front and two pushed up right in behind them. Where heavy metal football, isn't that what Klopp's supposed to be about? So I think there's a degree of him having a look at what the future looks like tonight with an expansive midfield, and there's a degree of saying start well, earn the right to play, which is very cliched, but it's true. And you do that with those that you trust, that don't take risks and don't give things away.
We certainly rang the changes. Well, some of the changes were rang straight away at half time. So 4 changes at half time. Matip, Tsimikas, Henderson, and most excitingly, Nunez come on at half time. Obviously, they replaced Khanage, Robertson, Keita, and Firmino. We get a penalty straight away, Steve. As soon as Henderson came on, as I said, I was doing a watch along with Omar and Mick. And no word of a lie, go back and check the footage. Within the first 3 minutes, I said, Henderson's only had 2 touches of the ball, I think. But he's made a difference to the tempo already. And what I meant by that is it's not always the technical things that you do on the ball that are important and critical to a Jurgen Klopp and Pep Linder's team. Sometimes the things that you do off the ball are just as critical and crucial. He just added 15-20% to the intensity, even though it was a preseason friendly, even though I get all that, no one cares about the result. And it's his tenacity and his endeavour that earns that penalty for Luis Diaz. He gets there. Luis Diaz gets there before the goalkeeper, and who scythes him down. I want to get to sort of this super chat before we move on. Big Energy says Yaya Sanogo once scored 4 in a preseason game. Appreciate the super chat and the banter and the laugh. As Steve, that was a natural laugh by Steve. He didn't even need to. That wasn't even a mocking laugh. That was actually quite funny from you. If you think that Darwin Nunez is going to have anything of a career like Yaya Sanogo, but we really appreciate that. Darwin Nunez comes on. Mohamed Salah gives him the penalty. What was your thoughts when that happened? What did you think?
I applauded it because it's an opportunity for him to do something that's going to help him relax, and that's really important. You do need to relax. He wasn't relaxed. He snatched at a few things in the last game. I thought it was a really, really good team-spirited thing to do by Mo. Mo's confidence is through the roof. There's no concerns about Mo Salah's ability to play in games and whether he can get himself motivated and up for them. He's been doing it for 5 years. This is a new guy in a club where the world's media is looking at him and the world's rival fans are looking at him and taking every opportunity to question the purchase and question his ability by giving him. You could see it straight away. I know the goalkeeper got a heavy hand on the ball and it was like, oh, is it going to go in or is it not? The moment that ball goes in, it's like the weight of the world are lifted off his shoulders. The frown's gone. It's been replaced by a smile. And then for the rest of the game, he's looking for his second, third and fourth opportunities to score goals as it came to pass. So I think really well done to Mo Salah for allowing Nunez to release the pressure, because that's what it was. It shouldn't have been, but it was. And as a result of that, we saw him settle down and he was a bit more like himself. So really wise move. Mo Salah doesn't need a goal in pre-season for us to be sure whether he turns up against Fulham or not.
But what that comes from, you see, and we've spoken about this in the past, where it comes from is a position of security in terms of confidence, security. He knows he's the lord of the manor. He knows his future is settled. He's signed a new deal at Liverpool. He's here for the long term. As you said, he doesn't need to score goals in pre-season. We know that come first day of the league, he'll be ready and roaring to go, fitness-wise, mentality-wise. But it shows you, because someone said that, and they reminded us that he actually done something similar for Firmino's first ever hat-trick for us as well. Yeah, so even though he gets all these accusations of being selfish and greedy and he only cares about himself, another reason why you should never believe media or people talking rubbish about someone and something that's just not factually true. It may appear to you that he's like that, but that's possibly a weakness of yourself rather than the actual situation.
All that is, Grizz, is an opportunity for people to get someone to click on their article on their web page and read sensationalistic bollocks. To be honest with you, mate, that's what that is. That's someone trying to make themselves relevant. It's a narrative that doesn't exist. It exists out there in the parallel universe that is the Twitterverse and certain journalists. But there's no issue with Mo Salah in the football club in terms of being greedy. Listen, if you got a centre forward that takes 11 chances and scores one, it goes in the top corner and you win the game 1-0, he's done his job. Let's not forget that. So there are times when Mo's better placed to pass the ball, but he doesn't. But you could say the same of everybody. Alan Shearer never passed the ball when he was in front of goal either. Thierry Henry never passed the ball when he was in front of goal. And they're arguably number 1 and 2, whoever you are and what order you put them, centre forwards the Premier League's ever seen. And Ian Rush was selfish like that. Ian Rush didn't pass the ball. Ian Rush saw the whites of the goals and off he went and get the shot off. And sometimes it worked. Sometimes he had 5 shots, scored 1 goal and won the game 1-0. Guess what? He's a match winner. So I don't have a problem with that. But this idea that there's an issue with Mo Salah being greedy, I don't agree. I think at times he does what he's paid to do, and some people read into that what they want. But tonight was a really magnanimous gesture to a young man that needed a leg up to take the pressure off himself, and it reaped the rewards by the end of the night.
Coming up to nearly 500 of you in here, loving it even more and more.
Brilliant. Well done, guys.
But we're still not up to 200 likes, which is quite the only downside of things. I know it's pre-season and you guys are warming up, but get those likes up. Steve, I wanted to come on something Trent said earlier in the week about Darwin Nunez. He said it's like the London buses. How Trent knows about the London buses, I really don't know. Being a Scouser and being born and bred, but it must be famous, that saying, or if it is a saying, it's actually true because I've been on the receiving end many a time in my college days. Yeah, that was my reason for excuse for being late in college all the time. Like, I had to wait 1 hour for a bus miss. Nunez is sent through 1-on-1, produces a clinical finish for his second goal. Just a couple of minutes later, goal. Nunez has done it again. This was, for me, the best goal in terms of we've seen the runs that he's been making in the previous clips of the 30 minutes that he's been on. So what we were looking for was keep making those runs, and eventually the more you play with your teammates, you'll click. The timing of the run, the timing of the pass will get better and better and better. Lo and behold, it's only taken 60 minutes he's played and about 10 minutes of the second half. He hasn't even played 90 minutes and he's almost perfected that run. And Trent, I think, finds him with a perfectly weighted pass. 1 touch, 2 touch, and a clinical finish. This is just a glimpse of the player that we think we bought and Jurgen Klopp knows he bought.
Absolutely. Great finish. The run off the shoulder, very quickly moved away from the central defender because of his pace. Really composed, waited for the goalkeeper to make his move and then slid the ball into the far corner. It was that's very true, Pixelated.
Very true.
I got Torres vibes from that goal, to be honest with you.
I did as well.
Suarez. I get a Torres vibe from him anyway.
I do as well.
Because he's explosive, and that's what Torres was. Whereas Suarez was just a nuisance that never went away and biting at your ankles. Forgive the pun, but he was that type of guy that you never let you rest for a second. Whereas Torres was elegant and explosive, and that's exactly what that was. That was an elegant run and a great finish.
We make further substitutions hour into the game, and an hour into the game, 3-0 to the Reds, cruise control, more changes. Davis comes on, Milner comes on, Elliot Jones, Gomez, Carvalho come on as well. I left out the name of Stefan Bajitic.
That's a better go than I can come up with.
I wasn't going to ask you because I know you're probably worse than me, so I wasn't going to put you in an embarrassing situation like that. You know what I mean? I thought ahead, son. But I left out his name in isolation, Steve, because we've spoken about the others in a couple of shows recently, the likes of Elliott, the likes of Carvalho, who was again, we'll touch upon Gomez, Milner, who was immaculate. This guy, shout out to Avi if he's still in the chat, Mr. Blue Chip himself. He's been speaking about him for a long time to me, saying this guy is really highly thought of. He's really highly thought of. I said, okay, calm down, relax. He's only 17. I see why he's really highly thought of. He's 17, apparently. Can someone confirm if he's 17? I think he is. Mick Moran told me he's 17. This guy is 17 and he can play as a centre-back or he can play as a DM. So impressive again. His game intelligence for a 17-year-old. Okay, let's just say he's 18. It's frightening for yes, he's 17, people are saying frightening. I thought his pressing, I thought his timing of the press was so impressive, Steve. He knew exactly when to go, when not to go, and he keeps it very nice and simple. To me, he looks like at the tender age of 17, 18, he looks like a Pep Linders player already.
18 on the 22nd of October he will be.
There you go.
He could save us 40 million quid, you know, because he could potentially be the final successor in the six when both of the two guys
Great shout.
who are similar age reach the point where we need to freshen it. This is great to get him involved now. He would be 20 at the point when we realistically look at those two guys and say, okay, now you're in the Milner role. In Fabinho's case, in Henderson's role in 3 years' time, I kind of would have expected his career to come to an end at Liverpool by the time he's 34. This guy's a potential six for us for the future, and he wins the ball back. He's quite fierce, isn't he? He's a real competitor. And I remember listening to Jamie Redknapp say when Steven Gerrard walked into the first training session, he hit a laser-guided 60-yard ball and then smashed a senior pro in a tackle, and he thought, "Hello, we've got one here." And do you know what? Same situation seems to be happening. But I'm not saying he's Steven Gerrard. Don't call me out for that. But he's got no fear, and doesn't care who he's playing against, and that's really, really something you can't coach. He kind of is so aware of what he wants to do. His career in the next couple of years is going to be really, really interesting because we thought Tyler Morton would be the one that would come out with the youth pack and have a go in the first team. But this guy's made two telling contributions in pre-season as 17-year-old in competitive areas in the middle of the park. So bodes really well for the future. And if he carries on the trajectory he's on, makes the development he's going to make, he could save us 50, 60, I said 40. He could save us £50 million in the future.
I mean, look, Blue Chip comes in and says also has the ability to play as an 8 Grizz, Linda's favourite right now. I mean, you can see the attributes like we spoke about in terms of tenacious, energetic, and game intelligence. Gems like this, obviously, we've seen a few in the past, and we kind of go a bit early in terms of overpraising them. So we don't want to go down that route and do it sort of to a state where, you know, in a few years' time they've gone. You know, help me here. Who's the guy that we said a couple of Pedro Chirivella?
Yeah.
Who again very highly thought of. Who hasn't had a bad career. He's gone to the Dutch league and he's doing well. He's done okay. He hasn't had the worst career. But I guess a lot of these things depending on timing, don't they? And what kind of, where they find themselves in terms of where the club is at that level. Sort of, do you know what I mean? Like
totally.
we're fighting for all the major trophies. He may be unlucky that we're at that level where we can't show the same patience we may have done if we weren't fighting for every single trophy and the margins of error were zero, pretty much.
I get you. It could be more damaging to put a young lad in a situation like that, and he then becomes culpable for a mistake that stops you challenging for one of those trophies, because at 17 he is going to make mistakes. So this is a guy that potentially could play in all of the domestic cup competitions and play and start while we use his development. Because I've said before to you, I'm not convinced we go with the same attitude next season to the domestic trophies as we did this year. I
Okay.
think that idea that you can't win domestic trophies has been put to bed. I don't think it'll be quite the 11 under 23s play. I think because we've got a deeper squad now, there'll be players that need to play to give them game time. But the likes of him, the likes of the Bayer, the fullback, players like that, they need games like that so we can discover whether they belong in the Liverpool team or not in the future. So for him, you're right. It depends where the club is. That's a really, really good shout. That if the club's staring a quadruple down the barrel again, which is, not inconceivable but very hard to do, you probably wouldn't turn to a 17-year-old in a moment of crisis. So certainly an inexperienced one, with his whole future in front of him, could do more harm than good. So I agree with you. He's got loads to offer. It's the timing and how we use him and when we use him. So yeah, mate, you just summed it up perfectly when you said
I,
that.
what another thing I took in terms of noticing something significant when he made those changes, Steve, he could very easily brought on sort of Henderson in the 6 and then brought on Tyler Morton or even Milner. But he replaced, as you said, Fabinho with Stefan. I'm going to call him Stefan just to be on the safe side tonight. I'll learn his name. He brings on Stefan in the Fabinho role, which is a massive vote of confidence because there was other subs that he could have made. So he left everyone else in their positions. Henderson stayed as the 8. Curtis Jones comes in as the 8. Sorry, Harvey Elliott goes wide right. And this guy takes the position of Fabinho, and it just shows another level of confidence that this guy has in him. But of course, the main talking point, the main focus everyone is asking about or talking about since then, or since he's come to the club, is Darwin Nunez. My God, I've never seen such crap and rubbish and irrelevant opinions been given on a young man who's come to a different country, doesn't speak the language, flown out to one of the hottest, humid countries, environments, atmospheres for his first couple of training sessions, where Jurgen Klopp spoke about he could barely breathe after 10 minutes of running around in that climate. And then suddenly he goes home and he finds the whole of social media has exploded into a frenzy of banter at the lowest level and abuse at the most trolling and disgusting level. So much that he decides to post. Do you remember we spoke about it? People, let us know what that word was again. Resiliente, something like that. And I said at the time, Steve, I said, I like it. I can't remember if you liked it. I said, I like it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I liked it because it shows you confidence in yourself. He wasn't timid. He wasn't shy. He didn't want to keep himself sort of out of the spotlight, because when you do something like that, that puts you back in the spotlight because you've risen to the bait, some may say, or you've bit back, some may say, or to Liverpool fans or the people that believe in him says, go and show them. The next available stage was to come home. The next available process was to come home, gather your thoughts, come back to Kirkby, have a few days off, come back, train hard, fly out to Germany, play Leipzig, come on in that second half and score 4 goals. I'm assuming most of the compilation makers are probably asleep now because it's past their bedtime. But if it isn't, my God, you're some tits out there, aren't you?
Yeah. Funny that, because Leipzig have just tweeted, when's the rematch without Darwin 99? That is a tweet from Leipzig, by the way, this evening.
Amazing.
So that's really cool, that. And they've got a lot of feedback from the Liverpool fan base, as you would imagine. Yeah, you're quite right. I told you when we spoke about this, there's no drama. The drama is all done in social media, all done in Twitterverse. The club is happy with him. The players around him are happy with him. And it's not even a conversation anymore, is it? And those compilation makers can go and find themselves a new target. And, they'll be making compilations about his goals soon, not his misses. It happens to every footballer ever. They miss chances. It's not an issue. So, best way to shut people up is to ram those words right back down their throat. And he's done that tonight with 4 goals. I know it's only a pre-season friendly. We said that from the outset, but it'll do him the world of good. He will be a different player when he takes to the pitch next week against Salzburg. He will be expecting to score again, and I think that's crucial.
Steve, do you know what it is? It's we didn't go overboard with our criticism, or we didn't go overboard when things were going wrong. Sort of. We didn't go overboard. I mean, when we heard about the compilations and everything, we just brushed it off, didn't we? So therefore, we can't go overboard with the praise as well and be hypocrites. We know it's a pre-season friendly. We know Leipzig are possibly about a week behind us, I was told in the watch along. Someone said that they're about a week behind in their preparation. So I'm going to be fair and say, yeah, look, just like I said about Man United performing heroically and amazingly when they beat us 4-0 and everyone said, oh, look at this turning of the tide or Man United back. I'm not going to say Darwin Nunez, like some are claiming, blue chip, if you're watching, he's going to score 30 plus goals and are going to get golden boot. No, if he does that, wow, absolute wow. But I'm certainly not expecting him to be a flop or not worth the money or not be able to fit into the team. And I think the confidence that's exuberating around the squad, they kind of could tell, like they were kind of celebrating like, it was only a matter of time, not in terms of a massive relief. It wasn't a sigh of relief and, oh, thank God you've scored it. It was a kind of fist pumping, like, yeah, there you go, you know, disaster over. They kind of knew that this is round the corner. And a lot of his goals, I think, are going to be a replica of a lot of goals he's going to actually score. So, for example, the fourth goal, is it? Where the third one's a tap-in, right? The ball gets pulled back to him, it's a tap-in. How many goals did we see Sadio Mane score like that? Jota score like that? This guy is going to be in those positions. He lives for those positions. He, in fact, could have scored more. He gets a header. Very good save from the keeper, who makes up for the shithouse treat that he does for the goal. Goalkeeper's error, but it's one of those positions and goals, again, very much like Torres, playing on the left-hand side, making that run and putting the goal away. I think, as you said, it's just a confidence booster. And this guy, just imagine at a packed Anfield, Steve. Just imagine that.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of like you get clipped round the ear off one of the senior players and says, "See, nothing to worry about, mate." That's what it was. It was like the team saying, "We've got your back, and we never doubted you for a second, mate." And I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to break Ian Rush's goal scoring record, or he's the next Fernando Torres, or he's the next Suarez. He now has an opportunity to relax, and then we can find out just how good he is, because we don't really know at the moment. And it's, like you say, it's far too premature to sit here and say, wow, this guy's going to score 30 goals. If he does score 30 goals, it will take a good team to stop us winning the league. Because if you get a goal scorer that does 30 goals with a defence like we've got, you'll win a lot more than you lose. So, jury is still out. Pressure's off, but the jury is still out.
Absolutely.
6 months before we really get an idea what this guy is.
Absolutely. We're not going to sit here and suddenly talk about Darwin Nunez, is this and is that. The jury only makes a decision in terms of, if he's a success or failure on the basis of at least one full season where you look at his overall contribution to the team, to the squad in every competition or every time he plays. And that's when you get an idea of where he is in the pecking order, sort of in terms of a success, failure, or he goes again and has another season. We're not sitting here and saying he scored 4 goals, have that, he's done it, he's finished his job. No, of course not. We're far, far too rational, I'd like to think. The jury is still out. And of course, when you pay £84 million, which eventually we will end up paying because I believe we will reach the bonuses that are in his contract, he'll have to perform at the highest level, and that's starting with Fulham away, or some may even say the Charity Shield. I need to speak on young Fabio Carvalho. Because I've spoken about it before, and I want to keep speaking on him because he's my personal favourite, and got the controls to speak on him. Tough luck if people don't want to hear about Fabio Carvalho. Switch off now. I think Fabio Carvalho is wonderful. I think it's so difficult not to compare him to Phil Coutinho. I know some people hate that. Some people say he's totally different. I get that. I think he's made of different minerals. I think this guy's got a bit of snarl, a bit of fight, a bit of steel in him as well on top in terms of the skill and the ball control Coutinho has. Of course, he doesn't quite have the shooting prowess that Phil Coutinho had, and maybe doesn't have the levels of through balls and weight of pass yet of Phil Coutinho, but he's not made a bad start at all. Some of this play again today in tight positions and control was a joy to behold again.
Yeah. When Phil Coutinho joined the club, he didn't have the shooting power either. I remember Jamie Carragher saying, I didn't think he could hit a ball 25 yards. He was so small, diminutive.
Absolutely.
But it'll come when his core strength builds up. It'll come. That's where that comes from, that power. There's a situation today where he headed the ball over a guy closing him down and ran around him. It was one of the goals. It was for the goal. Absolutely brilliant build-up play. I get the similarities to Coutinho. He looks a little bit like him carrying the ball as well. You know, the sort of same stature, similar size, I would imagine. I too, like you, have got a lot of time for him. Looking forward to seeing him play over the season. Really, really adventurous player, intelligent player. And this is what I said before about in the second half. We went with more risk takers. We brought him and Harvey on it. By the end of the game, those two guys were pulling all the strings and asking all the questions. And that's probably where we're going to see Diaz more in the game when he's linking up with Carvalho, because he will play further up the pitch than Thiago does. Because Thiago's a deep line midfielder, he always has been. But he's not an 8/10. He's a 6/8 at a push for me. He's the guy that finds the player in space to create the assist. That's kind of what he's always done throughout his career, and that's not knocking him in any shape, size, or form. You need that. And he sees passes where it opens up space for everybody around, and we benefit from that. But I agree, mate. Carvalho is a really, really exciting prospect. Where is he in comparison to players of his own age? I think he's comparable to Harvey Elliott at the moment. On pre-season, he might be slightly in front of Harvey Elliott. He really does make a difference when he comes on. We knew what we were getting. We knew what we were getting in January when we tried to get it across the line before the transfer deadline. We knew what we were bringing to the football club. He's been well thought of by the scouting network and the coaches for some time now, and he's ready. He's ready, Grizz. We didn't buy him to sit him on the bench. We didn't buy him to play him in the domestic cups and let him watch. We bought him to contribute now, and that's a glowing endorsement of what he does on the pitch, because he's a clever footballer, isn't he?
The moment he chased back, as Ahmed says, near our box, Klopp was fist pumping him at the moment. I pulled on myself. Things like that will only motivate him and encourage him to do more and more of it, in terms of understanding Jurgen Klopp and Pep Linders what they want from him. They don't just want him. They don't want him to show what he can do on the ball. They need to see off the ball. It's so crucial, especially if he's going to cement a place like I think he eventually will. Also, I think it's the perfect motivation for Elliott and Jones. And I think this is just as crucial. I think Elliott and Jones now know that they've got a third comrade, partner, the same age group in terms of talent, pool and age-wise, and they get on like a house on fire as well. You can tell already. Them three will drive each other to a different level. See, I totally believe that they will. And I thought Curtis Jones played his best game so far as well, or half, I say. Not even half, was it 30 minutes or whatever? I thought Curtis Jones looked fresher, more livelier, quicker movement of the ball. I thought Elliott continued the way he's been playing. They'll push each other, won't they, Steve? And this is another thing, another reason why it's important they stay around the squad, not get sent out alone, which they won't. It's obvious they won't get sent out on loan. But them three, they'll know all three of them can't probably cement a place in the team realistically, but most certainly one or two can, and it's a rat race between the three of them.
And that bodes well, that inner competition between the three of them to see who gets the more regular starting berth over the three. So they'll all be in a little bit of competition with each other. They'll all do things together. They'll all chart their successes against each other. And there's nothing wrong with internal competition. I think it's really good that we've got to have three young players in there. And I'm glad you brought Curtis Jones into the conversation, because not enough people are doing that. It's a good shout. He will be inspired by the fact that Carvalho plays on his side. So hang on a minute. I've got to prove my worth and prove that I'm a man who can deal with the challenge, and I like that. And then he's going to be up against Harvey Elliott in terms of who's going to play more games. And those three, as you said, will push each other on. They'll inspire each other. They'll go to war with each other in the right way, in terms of I want that position and not you. And what lovely position to be in, to have three really good young footballers that are in your club and are vying for starting positions. But all three have got loads of work to do to break down and take the shirts off the custodians, as we called them earlier. So really good. Really, I bet your Klopp goes to bed with a massive smile on his face every night, mate, because it must be a joy to work around these people, mate, because they're just ballers who want to work hard and break into the first team squad. And you wonder whether that had a big part to play in him re-signing, because how could you walk away from this?
We spoke about this. That in terms of what Klopp thinks of this squad and what he knew behind the scenes in terms of the age and the talent, and not only the age and talent, Steve, but we keep speaking about it, and it's so important, the attitude and the wanting to learn from these youngsters. You know, he wouldn't be smiling and be happy to sign contract after contract if he wasn't happy with the overall structure and knew where he's going with this. And those three players, people speak about sort of the youngsters coming through and the academy and etc., but I can't think of a talent pool like that in Jones, Elliott, and Carvalho right now, the top of my head, that excites me as much as Liverpool's. There may be one or two. I'm not saying there isn't. But in terms of if you relate the three and then add Trent, who's still young, Nunez is still very young, Khanage is still very young. You've got a core there and a foundation there. Diaz is still young. He's only 24, 25, something like that.
25, yeah.
Yeah, and Jota as well. You can see the core and the foundations of a as we often say, Liverpool 0.20 or Klopp 0.20. It's heading into the right direction. Where the direction leads now is another game, I believe, against Salzburg next week before the Charity Shield, and then get into this thing. Would you expect similar situation in terms of teams, game time, something very similar?
I think it'll be more like a 45-45 as opposed to a 45-30-20 scenario, which we've seen. I think we'll see very similar to tonight, where we'll go with the safe, and then we'll go with the more expansive way. Makes his mind up which one he wants to go with against Fulham. It would be really good to open up the season away at Fulham with a statement, with a win that signals intent. I know it's the first game of the season, but it's all psychological warfare when you do things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
So you go to Fulham and you come away with a hat full of goals, people feeling good about themselves, and you've done it with a mixture of using the 5 subs, the guys that allow you to build your platform in the game, and then you bring the young players on, they take the game away from you. That's best case scenario. That's a real good use of all of your squad to get to that position. I just got a feeling that in games like Fulham, we'll be more expansive.
We've discussed this before. I expect the same. We've got to be more expansive. We know we scrutinize each part of our game, and we've made adaptations and changes every season. And I think one of the things that we said at the end of last season we will look at, I remember very clearly, me, you, and I think Conroy and Evan might have been on the show. We said we'll go away, or not me, we, but in terms of the coaches, we'll go away and analyze why there were so many draws. And because draws is what hurt us. We only lost 2 league games all season. It was the draws. And I think we will play in a more varied attack in terms of more weapons in our disposal. And also, I thought we'd have either an extra attacker on pitch, or a role of a 8 will be more attack minded. And I think we're seeing elements of that quite a bit. But Steve, we've got to wrap it up there. I think we're feeling a bit better about ourselves. We're not shouting from the rooftops. We're not going around on social media saying, like certain other clubs, talking about how we're back, because we never left. We never left. We're not back. We never left. We're here to stay. We're here to compete, and I think we're in a good way. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch upon, my man?
No. Just again, 500 people in here watching tonight. Still amazing. Big kudos to all of you guys for coming, all the chats, all of the moderators and all that. You know, that's amazing. That's a real good turnout. It's quite cool to see that many people here, to be fair. So fair play to you all. You're all like in the chat community, and we love to see it. So keep going. It's really good.
One last question I forgot to ask. To me, this is very simple. Sam says Robbo or Risa.
Robbo.
There's not even a doubt.
The only left back in Liverpool history that probably you could put an argument for to be ahead of Robbo right now would be Alan Kennedy, purely because of what he achieved. And he was a great fullback, to be fair. But I think by the time Robbo's career is over, he will have usurped Alan Kennedy. And the bigger question on the other side is, can Trent surpass Phil Neal's exploits? That's the big question, isn't it?
Ooh, now that is a show in itself, and we will get that covered if we can. That is some debate for a show. Obviously, the younger generation will need to go and do some homework on Alan Kennedy and Phil Neal once we have that debate, but that's a good debate. People, let's try to get up to 300 before we wrap it up, or if we can't, just keep pressing like. Or if you watch it on a replay, if you're watching us on a replay. Steve, thank you very much for your time, my man. As always a pleasure speaking Liverpool with you. I think we have a little break now. It's Thursday, we have a little break until Sunday. I'll do a call-in show on Saturday night. People look out for that. And then Sunday, RedFellas will be back with some hard-hitting talking points as per usual. Thank you very much for your support. This is me and Steve. Over and out. Take care.